Hi, I'm Alex, and I'm going to teach you how to completely strip down and clean the components of your bearings. Over time, when you skate outside, your bearings can get full of dirt and grit, and that can gum them up. But if you take good care of your bearings, then they can last you for years. So you don't need to get new ones. It can take a little while, so you should probably only be deep cleaning your bearings if you're having issues like your bearings are totally gummed up or they're not spinning well. All you need for this is regular household supplies and bearing lubricant. Another thing I want to mention about skate bearings is that when you're buying skate bearings, a big thing to look out for is that they're rubber shielded. So here's what a rubber bearing shield looks like. Here's my skate. I'm going to do a quick spin test and I'm going to see if any of my bearings are messed up. So as you can see, my front wheel is really good, but my middle and my back wheels had a lot of friction. I'm going to take apart the bearings and I'm going to see what's wrong with them. Okay, so this is everything that you're going to need to clean your bearings. And the rubbing alcohol is what we're actually going to use to clean all the components. All right, let's pop off the problem wheels here. This bearing is looking crusty. All right, here's the 4 bearings from the 2 wheels. I'm gonna do a quick spin test to see which ones are messed up. And if the bearings are fine, then I'm not gonna bother taking them apart. Okay, so this one does not spin. This one's okay. This one's messed up. And this one spins fine. So the problem with those wheels were these 2 bearings, so I'm gonna clean these. All right, here's my 2 messed up bearings. So the first thing I'm gonna do is take off the shields. So what you do is you take your knife blade and you just stick it in the inside edge like that. You pry it up. And then it should just pop right off. Do the other side as well. Okay. And these 2 bearings are from the same maker and the same batch, so I have no problem like mixing up the components. Like if one of these balls ends up in the other bearing or whatever, I don't really care. So the next thing we're gonna do is pry up the spacer, which is the plastic component inside that keeps the bearings evenly spaced out. So here it is. This is the spacer. It looks like this. We're gonna clean that as well. So the next thing we're gonna do is remove the inner ring, which is this inside part here, and the balls, the actual ball bearings. So in order to do that, you need to get all of the balls lined up on one side. So just take the back of your knife or whatever and squish all of the balls onto one side like this. And then when they're completely on one side, then you should be able to actually pop the ring out. So now I've completely broken the bearing down to its last component. All right, so we have 2 bearings inside the container. I'm just gonna dump some rubbing alcohol onto it. So here's my bearings sitting in the alcohol. As you can see, a lot of grit has already disconnected from them. I'm gonna start taking out the components and cleaning them one by one. So to clean the spacer, you wanna take a Q-tip, dip it in rubbing alcohol, and run it through every one of these grooves where the ball bearings will sit. Okay, that's done. Make sure when you do this that you don't get fibers on the actual spacer, like caught on the edges from the Q-tip. All right, here's the inner ring of the bearing, and as you can see, it's totally full of grit. So I'm gonna take a cotton swab and I'm just gonna polish the inner ring until I'm not seeing any more of this grime that's all over it. So in this spot, we have a little bit of corrosion inside of the channel. I'm just gonna try to wipe that out, and this is the kind of thing that you wanna watch out for. Okay, the inner ring is looking super clean now. The main things you want to make sure is that no fibers end up staying inside of the channel off of your cotton swab, and that the channel is like perfectly clean. All right, here's the outer ring. You can see the channel is really full of gunk. We're gonna wipe all of that out right now. Okay, here it is after a good wipe down. The main thing is that there's nothing inside of that channel. All right, so that's looking clean to me now, so we're gonna put that aside. Now we're gonna take our shields, which are looking a little grimy, and we're gonna wipe them down. You can use the end of the Q-tip for this, since the end of the Q-tip didn't actually get used before. This is what the ball bearings actually look like. There's 7 of them per bearing, and it's very easy to lose them when you're doing this, so you want to be careful. So at this point, all that's left is the 14 balls from the ball bearings. We're going to do an inspection of every single one and make sure that they don't have little black spots on them, which is more grime. Alright, so here's all the crud that we got out of just 2 bearings. Okay, so here's all of our components for our 2 bearings. Now we're going to put everything back together. It can be really finicky to do this part, but I'm going to show you a trick that I like to use that makes it a lot easier. You take one of the bearing shields and you snap it into the outer ring. Now I'm going to put my thumb under to cover the hole, so it basically becomes like a tray. Now I'm going to put in all my bearings. Okay, now this is the tricky part. The inner ring is not going to fit in properly unless you get all of the bearings into their channel, both on the outer and the inner ring. So what you do now is you drop in the inner ring into one side like this. Okay, now I'm going to take the other shield and I'm just going to press it on, like sandwich it on. And as soon as I do that, everything snaps into place. So as you can see now, the inner ring is in the middle of the bearing, which is where it should be. Okay, that was the hard part. Now we're going to take the shields back off. Now we're going to space out the 7 ball bearings so that we can get the spacer in. So that's good enough. The spacer should just snap in as long as you align it correctly. So there you go, my spacer's in. Now we finally take our bearing lube. We add 3 drops. 1, 2, 3. Snap on the shields. Give it a spin to even out the lubricant. And there you go. This is the bearing that was absolutely not moving earlier. All right, moment of truth. So I just put the wheels back in and the bearings, and it was this wheel and this wheel that we had to replace. So now I'm going to give them a spin and we're going to see how everything's working. All right, so as you can see, it works well. I hope this tutorial helps you, and I will see you out there.